Hey guys, so I just got back from Super Bitcon a couple days ago, and it was actually a pretty nice con. They had about a few thousand people. It was in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma State Fair Expo Hall. They had basically two warehouses. You'll see a little bit of video right about now. They had basically two warehouses, and I only really had enough time to go take a little quick video around the place. But the one warehouse that you're seeing right now is the main vendor room. This was basically almost all the vendors, plus there was some arcade cabinets, some free console replays, and some tournament stuff in the back. And I also think Microsoft and Sony were there giving some handouts and had some cool stuff. The other one was where the panels were held, and also the indie developers had their games shown off there, and some of the arts and crafts people were also over in that vendor area. But overall, nice little con, lots of cool collectors, very much a collector's con. There's a lot of cool stuff that I don't almost ever see at any conventions. Which brings me to this whole video's point, which is that I got a lot of stuff, enough to justify me doing this video, because a lot of it is sort of niche or weird or unique, so I figured it was worth doing a video on. So I'm going to try to do this as concise as possible, but also being quite interesting. First of all, I'm going to try to drag all this stuff around here, because I've tried to film this quite a few times with a lot of issues involving the camera unfocusing and refocusing, so hopefully I fixed it at this point. But regardless, so the first two things I picked up, really early in the morning. These are two games that, one of the very few, item sets that I didn't get, huge deals on, but were things that I was seeking out. They are Tough Man Contest and BC Racers for the 32X. These are both complete. I'm only 3 games away from a complete 32X collection of my first complete Sega collection of any system, which isn't saying a lot with a 32X, but, I like to buy my games out of conventions, at stores, stuff like that. I really try not to buy online too much unless it's going to be a really good deal. So, I could have picked these up already pretty easily. They're not, super hard to find on eBay or Amazon or any place like that. But, like I said, I like to buy my games in person if I can do it. And they had them. Good deal. Good enough deal pricing-wise. So I was like, all right, cool. I don't think I've never played either games, but I don't think they're going to convince me that 32X is really all that great of a system. And I know they're both on BC Racers on Sega CD, Tough Man Contest on Sega Genesis. They're playable on other systems, so not big deals. But still, nice to finally get them out of the way, and very few games left to go, which makes me happy. But now we get into the weirder stuff. As I mentioned, it's a collector's con, for collectors, hardcore. And so this next thing isn't Sega. I know, crazy. I'm going to explain myself really quick. So I'm starting to wind down on Sega stuff as far as having a lot of stuff that I'm really excited about. Doesn't mean any of my collections are complete or that I'm not excited, but I'm only 3 games away from 32X, under 20 games for Sega CD. I've gotten quite a few of the Sega Genesis games I want. Master System really hasn't caught me yet. Game Gear is a pain to collect for complete in box. Saturn's expensive. And Dreamcast, it just generally isn't that easy to find Dreamcast stuff usually on the wild. So I'm working on a new project, a new collection, if you will, based on Game Center CX. If you've seen my Tokameki Memorial Sega Importorium video, you've seen me mention this before, and it's a show I'm a big fan of. So my decision was that I wanted to start getting a complete in-box copy of every game that he's ever played on the show, which I've already done some of them, like Bonanza Brothers and Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, which I just own by nature. But that also means getting a lot of stuff that didn't come out in America, and also a lot of stuff for different consoles. I started recently, there's a small import shop in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, I should say Pittsburgh, called Penn Hill Avenue Games, I think is close to the name. Anyways, they have a lot of import stuff, very nice store, very nice owners and stuff. And got Mario and Wario, Stan Sickle Weasel, some Famicom stuff all in the box and whatever. But so I went to the convention, if I don't spend a lot of money on Sega stuff, I can start doing that. Did not expect to find something like this. This is Ninja Spirit for the TurboGrafx 16, one of the very few TurboGrafx games to play on the show that actually came out in America. Now the reason this is really cool for me is that normally when you find a TurboGrafx game, it's either loose or it's like this, in the jewel case, and then you pop it open and boom. But they came in, of course, what you just saw, one of these boxes. And the boxes are pretty uncommon because, just like any other piece of cardboard, they usually got tossed. So the fact that one of the very few games that came out in America for the TurboGrafx that Reno played on the show was available at the show, the price was really good, I double-checked, did my research and everything, and it's one of the very few that I actually played beforehand. I actually owned this game for the Wii Virtual Console quite a few years ago, and I liked it, was huge. I don't even have a TurboGrafx 16 yet, but I'm pretty pumped to have this. So that's when I knew the beginnings of a very good convention were here. But I did not expect to have trades going on. So as you know, I work for 8-Bit Evolution now, and I was there on behalf of them working as a vendor. And I had my times to go, out and walk around and do sales, but most of the time I was at the booth. And every once in a while, people would come up and want to do trades. Now, most of them I turned away because it was either, like, stuff we didn't really need for a collection, or stuff that we really gotta get a good enough deal on. But one person came up wanting something that we had a lot of that wasn't really selling very well, and they also wanted one of the easier games for us to make and stuff like that. And they offered 2 games of awesome quality, so I took them up on their offer. The first one was a complete box copy of Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance for the Game Boy Advance. A fantastic game. Actually, my least favorite of the 3, but that's not saying a lot, because all 3 of the GBA Castlevanias are phenomenal. So much so the bag is still around the cartridge. Very, very nice copy. Probably like an 8 out of 10 box-wise, because there's a little crinkle here. I've never been a quality guy. But still, super pumped. But this is not like something for my collection, actually. This is something that was part of the deal, and I figured I'd either trade it or let my boss have it or what have you. What was the part of my deal is a game that I've never yet to play, even though I've beaten every game in the series otherwise, and given that it's almost identical or very close in gameplay style to Gunstar Heroes, it's kind of shocking, as it's one of my favorite series, and that's Metal Slug 7 for the Nintendo DS, which has become kind of an uncommon title nowadays. It doesn't have the slipcover, because I'm pretty sure the game had a slipcover, but inside it does have everything that was packed in with it, including the super cool, well, it's not like mind-blowing, but still, it's a mini poster of the Metal Slug. It makes me happy. So next time I have to go to a convention or whatever, this is gonna go in my DS immediately, because I have wanted to play Metal Slug 7 since they announced it, and just it never happened for whatever reason. So very, very excited to finally get to play Metal Slug 7. Oh, but that was just the beginning. We have not even begun to descend. The next thing came from our booth buddies over at Freaks and Geeks in Denton, Texas. They were kitty corner, there's the big space, there's the 8 tables surrounding, and they were like the opposite corner of us. They're super cool guys. I hung out with them quite a bit during the weekend, and they had a lot of weird stuff too. A lot of empty boxes, and the empty box that I traded for, as well as a Marth amiibo, which is up there that you can't see, but that was for my boss. I traded for a Sega Nomad box, because even though I don't usually do box system stuff, because really my systems are never in boxes, small enough system to justify it, uncommon enough box to get it, and it didn't really cost me anything. Not gonna complain about that. There's nothing. The thing that holds it in place isn't in there, but all the pamphlet stuff and everything is in there. So super excited. Legitimately, I may not show it, but I'm more of a game guy than I am that kind of stuff. But again, we've only just begun. So next up, this is probably one of the coolest things that I have. You probably just got a little sneak peek. But the same booth that had the TurboGrafx game and had a lot of the stuff that I've gotten, had a huge amount of retro magazines, and I've always wanted to get some of the Sega stuff, and so I bought myself a big fat lot of Sega stuff, and there's a lot of cool Sega magazines in here. I don't even know how many more there are that aren't in this stack. First, I have about 5 or 6 issues of course, Sega Vision, the most well-known, popular Sega magazine that happened during the heyday of Sega and the Genesis and such a... Surprisingly enough, the system didn't actually last much longer than, I think it ended right before the Saturn happened. So, this, really only was out for a couple of years, but it's a super good magazine, and needed if I'm going to do a video on Sega magazines, which I wasn't originally, because I'm well, Sega Visions isn't a lot. But then, of course, I realized just how many there were. They had a couple issues of the well-known and well-published Dreamcast magazine. I have 2 of these from that, and so, that was the other official Sega magazine. Or was it? Oh no, there was a 3rd one. The Team Sega newsletter. I have never seen one of these in person, although I think I've seen them in passing on the internet. This is 8 pages, including the cover. And it was $3.50 back in the early, mid-80s. It's crazy. Crazy for 8 pieces of full-color paper. But this is an official Sega thing, so this was pretty exciting on top of that. And then there were 2 other Sega pieces of magazine memorabilia. Sega Force, which was a supplementary magazine to Electronic Gaming Monthly. I believe, given the way it's worded and the fact there's no price ending on it, it's one of those things the magazine comes doggy bagged, there'd be extras inside of it. I think this was the doggy bagged extra inside with the issue of whatever. It was a 93 time frame, so it was a 93 issue of EGM this came with. But so this was pretty cool, like a nice, like, you know, feature-packed issue of EGM content solely based around Sega. And then this one I've never heard of, and I actually get the feeling, given my research, this might be the most popular of all the Sega magazines. Unfortunately, I don't live in the UK, which is probably why. Sega Power. I only even got one issue of this, unfortunately. It even has its HMV discount card thing left. Actually kind of a cool magazine. I have a lot of cool, like, things to say about this, but again, I think I want to do, like, a video about all of these Sega magazines, because it's never really been covered. Really, the only video game magazines that I ever see a really good video retrospectives on are the Nintendo Powers. And Sega does what Nintendo don't, remember? So I think I'm gonna have to be the one that does that. But yeah, so this is actually a pretty cool read. Really harsh. I think that's the only thing I'll mention. Critics this thing, really, really fucking harsh. Like, man, like, everything was like 40s and 50s and 60s, except for fucking Gadget Twins. I don't fucking get it. But, anyways, I'll talk about that one more in depth when the time comes. Now, this next one got a little bit of a story to this. So I used to live in New York, as some of you may know or watching. And I actually became friends with somebody a little more popular than me. His name is Scott, also known as Grimsy42. And the man likes to kind of hold Sega games over my head constantly. He owns Kyle Flying Squadron, and he doesn't ever let me forget it. And usually, this doesn't really affect me as much as I'd like to admit, but it does sometimes. And this time, it actually caused me to buy a game. It's the only one I think that I bought that was, you know, almost retail, but I actually wanted this game for a while, not really knowing much about it besides seeing it in videos like the Game Sack or seeing it on Saturn Memories or a lot of other, like, Saturn fan things. So, without further ado, I finally own Dragon Force, one of the many working design games that I don't own yet because I only own the Sega CD ones. Except for this one, now I own this one. It looks really good. It looks really, really good. And I'm, you know, somebody who likes Shining Force and stuff, like, I could use a game like this. But for what it's worth, I have the blue-haired lady girl with the boob window. I don't know the rarity of this particular, like, disc variant, but for what it's worth, somebody can tell me on here, or I'll probably find out before the video goes up. But yeah, the game looks phenomenal. I like my SRPGs. It looks beautiful. I'm sure the writing's probably pretty solid, so I'm pretty pumped about playing this. This will actually probably get played sooner than later. But yeah, Grimsy, you got me to buy an expensive Saturn game. Well done. And hopefully it's as good as you've been making it out to be, and everybody else seems to make it out to be. But anyways, next we talk about the best deal I got on the entire show. So to set it up, this one store right across from our booth had a copy of Separation Anxiety for the Sega Genesis, which I didn't have. It was the last Spider-Man game I needed. It's been creeping up in price, become kind of uncommon. They had it for a pretty reasonable deal, and it was, like, you know, super minty. It was God of a guy's collection, so, like, he was keeping good care of it, and I was like, all right, sure. But out of the corner of my eye, as they say, I noticed something very peculiar. And it's probably one of the best deals I've ever gotten, besides the time I bought Pitfall: The Mind Adventure for the 32X, 100% complete with poster, only exclusive to the 32X version for $10 when it goes for around 150 to 200 online. Remember, I'm trying to get a complete set of every game that was on Game Center CX, and Reno did a two-parter on Super Mario World. Now, you may be wondering, Super Mario World, how the hell did you get that good of a deal on Super Mario World? Well, some people on this, I'm preaching to the choir, you already know I'm talking down to you. But for those that don't, Super Mario World, yes, common game, yes, you know, doesn't go for a huge amount of money. But most people had this Super Mario World from a pack-in with the system. When you got it packed in with the system, you would get the game cartridge and the manual, but not one of these boxes. And most people didn't buy just a retail copy of this off the shelf in a box. They can go from anywhere to $60 to $100, more usually around $100, but I've seen a couple like get under the radar around $60 to $70. I don't know if the million seller like logo ones go for less. That's possible. I haven't really researched into it hard, but usually the average about these games is about $100 complete in box. This was $20. Hell yeah. Because really, I didn't want to justify paying $100 for a complete in box copy of Super Mario World, but $20? I could do that. And then if I ever decide to go completely Japanese with all my Game Center CX purchases, as opposed to having like the American copies, This will bring in some extra money sometime. So that was super exciting. I'm like super pumped. This is also good trade bait too at some point. I've had a couple of offers already actually, so you never know what might happen with that one. But that was like one of those things where I'm like, I'm so glad that somebody told me about that. You gotta keep up with that kind of stuff because you know they can trade into better Sega games too. Next up, is it still down here, around here? Yeah, there it is. This is another trade from the same guys who traded me the Nomad box. They got this later they got this on like the second day. It was a Saturday and Sunday con, and they made me trade a lot for it. And normally I wouldn't, but it is Sega. I don't have any, and it was still like sealed in the package. It's Virtua Fighter Tiger Electronics handheld. Yay! I'm really looking for the Panzer Dragoon one. Not the R-Zone cart, but like the actual like standalone Panzer Dragoon one. Mostly more than anything. But I'm like, I'll take it. I'm like, take it. Speaking of which, they also traded me one other thing that I noticed right at the end of the day, and this is not specifically a Sega-related thing or a Game Center CX-related thing, but exceptions are made when Hunk's involved. This is a Resident Evil 2 Platinum Video Game Superstars thingabub. I don't know exactly what it is, but do you notice that this is the character Hunk from Resident Evil 2? He's fucking awesome. He's probably one of the coolest characters to be in any Resident Evil game. And yeah, that's all I needed to know. I like Resident Evil. I like Hunk. I could have an action figure of Hunk from like that era specifically. Done. That's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know, and it was done. But oh, we're not done yet, of course. No. Next up would have to be small little title. It's the only Game Boy game that I'm gonna probably own for quite a while. Part of the Game Center CX collection. It is Super Mario Land. Hooray! No insert, but it does have the game and the manual, so I'll be fine. I'll find one eventually. Not a big deal. It's just Super Mario Land. What do you want from me? But then, of course, we get to the weird stuff. I have to follow these up. So this is 1-2 punch. So when we were opening and setting up on Friday, Freaks and Geeks was setting up some of their stuff. They had a lot of loose booklets and stuff. And they had two of particular interest. The first one was this Rise of the Dragon hint book for the Sega CD. I've never seen this before. I know they exist. I think it had a price on here. No, it didn't. I thought it had a price, but yes, this is like, you know, basically, I don't know if this was packed in with the game or if you had to like, it was one of those order things or something like that, but I'm like, I've never seen it before. I think these are awesome. Done. If it ends up it was a pack in for like the cardboard box version or something, I'll find out and, you know, add it and make my copy 100% complete at some point. But more importantly, I finally found this stupid Garfield Caught in the Act pack in. It's just a compilation of Garfield comics and like some stuff to go in with the Garfield Caught in the Act game that came out for the Sega Genesis and Game Gear when Sega was doing a big thing with that. I'm like, I've never seen one of these. I'm probably never going to see one of these again besides like through Sega like collection forums and like eBay, and it was $2. So yes, the answer was going to be a clear yes. But, you know, sometimes things work out kind of weirdly. So I'm like, alright, gonna go in my Genesis collection, whatever. So Sunday, one of the guys that I bought some stuff that I'll show right at the end, pulled out a new box of stuff. And I almost shit my pants when I saw what he pulled out, and I paid $10 a piece for each one of these. And it is so hard to find these anywhere besides online. Almost never at conventions, never these kind of games, and never in like a good price format, because usually you can kind of like upcharge a bit, especially with these kind of games because there's so little out there. And that is complete in box Game Gear games. Ooh. So I got Sonic Triple Trouble, which is now the second Sonic game and the first one that isn't Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that every person who has a Game Gear collection owns already. You basically can trip over those. A sealed copy of Bust-A-Move, which we will now open because it's tradition. Whenever I do pick up Game Gear games, I always open sealed copies because I hate all of you. And by that I mean I don't hate all of you. I just a lot of Sega Game Gear games come sealed. I love opening sealed games and seeing what was inside of them. And Bust-A-Move actually is sealed kind of off. This is actually probably the most common of all the games, maybe even more than Triple Trouble, honestly. So I figured, you know, what the hell. So let's see. Let's open it up. We've got... Ooh, there is something more than just the game here. Let's see. We've got inside... Okay, so this is one of the, not the, like, tray inserts. It's one of, like, the cartridges hold on here, kind of like an N64 game. And then, of course, you've got your cased game. You've got manual. And then a quick pamphlet spread out of getting the power back, the rechargeable battery pack, basically, and the super wide gear, like, zoomy lens. So... if you don't have a bus to move and you don't have this, it's not complete. You've been told. I'm sure I'm not the first person to have found that out either, but just in case you're wondering, it's now documented on the internet. So remember that. You gotta find that insert. You gotta find that little like color page ad in the game if you want a complete bus to move. But anyways, Shinobi, super early game. Once again, nice and complete. Boxes and all the boxes are in decent shape too. But now we get into the rare stuff. I have seen quite a few people digging for putt and putter miniature golf online before, and I like miniature golf. And besides this, I think there's only Zany Golf in like most of the Sega systems, so like I'm pretty pumped to try this out. I actually, the guy who sold this to me was like, "This game's actually really, really fun." And I'm like, "All right, I will take your advice. I've got car rides to find out." But now we dig into the coolest of the stuff. This was a launch title and also a game that I really, 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 really love for a lot of reasons. That is Castle of Illusion. I have very big plans for this and the subject matter in which it's involved on right here. Not just Mickey, but what Mickey comes from. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's something I've been working on since I started doing videos. And I think it's finally going to start happening soon now that I'm, like, getting really focused. But anyways, super excited. Launch title, super hard to find these complete in box. And then there was Bart versus the Bart versus the Space Mutants. I have seen, like, 2 of these ever in, like, the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing Sega stuff. Like, in... complete in box. And the guy I was buying it from, who's like a Sega Game Gear collector too, like told me the same. He's like, these are fucking near impossible to ever see. But again, there's so few of them, it's very hard to sell most of these Game Gear games sometimes, and like I got an awesome deal. I was super pumped. Terrible game. I played the Genesis version. I can't imagine this is much better because it's basically just gonna be like the NES version. But finally, wouldn't you fucking believe what he had? Garfield caught in the act. And you're thinking, oh, wow, good timing. You're going to get your goddamn comic book into something. Well, this is not the joke. I pulled out the wrong one. Whoops. I've seen 2 of them now in person. And I own 2 of them now. So theoretically, I own 2 complete copies, 2 complete comic books. And I didn't really even have to try to get them. They just fell into my lap. So that was pretty awesome. Not gonna BS. So that was that's like a Game Gear game was like a super cool pickup because like again, you almost never see Game Gear stuff out there in the wild at all. And it's just nice to have. It takes your mind off of things quite a bit. Finally, before we go into the last descent of madness, so there's a guy on Facebook groups, and Sega Collection Facebook groups. I think he's in a lot of retro stuff. He's somebody I've talked to a couple times, like in passing, and he actually does a lot of good work. His name's Marco Rossi, and he does Sega repros like we do at 8-Bit Evolution, but he does Master System, which you don't do yet, and somehow one of his friends brought some of his games to Super Bitcon, and his booth was... the booth that guy had was right next to ours. So Marco's reproduction cart's like set up at the guy that was selling him for him's booth was right next to ours. And once I found that there was his repros out, because I was kind of like, Master System, really? Wow. Surprised anybody besides Marco's doing that. Fucking course it's Marco's. I'm like, man, I gotta support Marco, because he's a cool guy, and he puts a lot of work into it. He's really passionate about it. And so I'm like, I'll look through what Master System stuff they have. I'll see which one. They have he has LTs 2, and a lot of the Game Gear, like, ports from, like, Europe and stuff. But one caught my eye more than any other one. I literally only know about this from literally what's on the cover, what's on the back. So I don't know what to expect. I don't know if it's good or not or whatever, but it is Sukeban Deka II. It is an English translation game, and it literally reads, Sukeban Deka II follows a Japanese schoolgirl who has chosen to fight crime after flaunting the law herself one too many times. Her weapon of choice is the use of a weaponized metal yo-yo to pummel her foes. Fight, collect items, search for clues, and even do a bit of dungeon crawling in this one-of-a-kind Japanese Mark III game, now for the Sega Master System with English text. Play in multiple different ways in a game that is part adventure, part brawler, with some dungeon crawling thrown in the mix. What this sounds like to me is a mix of point-and-click adventure games, River City Ransom, Rygar Yo-Yo, and Phantasy Star 1 dungeon crawling. Or maybe not, or other some kind of dungeon crawling. What this means is, it's either going to be a fucking mishmash nightmare, like Scud, well, Scud wasn't bad, but Scud was like a mishmash that hit reset where I was talking about like all the different types of gameplays, or it's going to be a perfect melding, and it's going to be fucking incredible, which means we're going to be talking about this game on a Sega Importorium very soon, if it does. We'll have to see. But, if nothing else, I will speak to the quality of Marco's things. I mean, this looks authentic as shit. I mean, like, super, like, I wouldn't have been able to tell. And, like, the cover art's really nice and everything. So, like, super good job. Super good job. You should, if you're a Sega fan, you should seek him out online and find him. Finally, the guy who sold me the TurboGrafx game and the magazines I went back to pick up some stuff for the Game Center CX collection. And I picked up my first couple of SNES games I'll ever own. I'm sorry for the throwing thing, that isn't important. I picked up a copy of Final Fight, complete in box, and F-Zero, complete in box. Two great games, both featured on the show. Games that I would easily play in whatever system I have. I do have a Retron 5, so for now that'll work. And then I also picked 6 NES games up, all of varying degrees of quality. I picked up Ninja Gaiden, fucking awesome. Box is in a little bit rougher shape, but I did that for a reason. So that was kind of cool. The quintessential Super Mario Bros. 3, you know, you got it. If you're gonna collect, you kind of have to have it. But he played it, so it was necessary. Super great Data East game of Karnov. This is let me put it this way. This is not a bad way to start off a NES collection with these particular games, except for this next one, actually. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Yeah, I know that sounds pretty crazy, but I don't know why that went down. Whatever. Yeah, don't worry about it. Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Crazy that he played this, but he did. He did play it, so I had to have it, and it was cheap. Legacy of the Wizard, which I remember being kind of a good game, for when I was a kid. Like, when I was super young, we had an NES for a little bit. I feel like something's up with the camera. I apologize, but we're already 28 minutes in. I'm almost done. We'll live with it. And finally, Milon's Secret Castle, which I actually defend quite a bit. I actually like this game. I know that, like, some people have said it's bad because AVGN said it's bad, or because it's too cryptic, but I don't know. There's something about Milon that I always kind of dug. I like the character a lot. I play him a lot in, like, Saturn Bomberman. I played Do-Re-Mi, which is a great platform we make reproductions of, not to plug. I don't think he was in the Dreamworld TV fighting game for Smash. However, there was one exception, and I have to explain this really quickly, and I'm going to try to wrap this up, because I only have one more set of things after this. So we had a I had an NES with my sister when we were really young, and it wasn't until I was like 5 or 6 I got the Genesis and became like super into everything. And my parents, for some reason, they got us Mickey Mouse Capade, because my mom's a big Disney freak. We had Super Mario Brothers. We had Super Mario Brothers 2. Like 1 or 2 other straggling games. Like, we didn't have a lot of games. I don't think we ever did. My uncle and my grandmother had like a lot more. My uncle lived with my grandmother and stuff. And however, for some reason we had this game about to show you. I'll never understand it. I don't know why the fuck it exists or why it ever came out. But I know I hated it. And I always hate it. But I saw it. It was super cheap. It was complete. And I want to beat the fuck out of this game for my 3-year-old self. And that is fucking Wall Street Kid. Why? I mean, like, I don't get it. Like, at first I even thought, like, this might be a Japanese game, but, like, I don't think it is. I think this was, like, legitimately made, like, for an American... I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I know there's a lot of these weird management games in Japan. I get that it's like a different culture thing, but like, why? Why? I had to. I have to avenge my younger self and prove that I'm not worthless. Finally, I bought some gifts. The first one here, I only partially paid for, or I would have been broke. But my boss is a big Neo Geo collector, and I happened to send him a picture of the Neo Geo games this guy had, because he also TurboGrafx, and he had a bunch of stuff. And he wanted this one really, really badly, so I helped him out. Took a lot of the stuff I would have saved in the bundling of those NES games I just showed and stuff. Paid a part of it, and I got him 8-Man. Super 8-Man is a really fun beat-em-up brawler for the Neo Geo. This is an AES copy. For what I paid for it, was a super good deal, and any Neo Geo game you can get for cheap is like a godsend, because like they're not common, they're highly sought after. I was super pumped, and he was super pumped, and I played it, we beat it, it's just good. It's just really good, and I'm glad I got to make him happy. And then finally, for the lady, she's kind of a point-and-click freak, and she, wanted me to look for some cartridges, but, she's like, don't spend a lot, and she's been buying, dinner and shit for me lately. So, since she wasn't there to tell me no, I spent some money on her. So I got her, firstly, Deja Vu and Shadowgate for the NES, and, if you haven't played either of these or Uninvited, you really, really should, because all three of them are great point clicks, especially Shadowgate. You can get Shadowgate on Steam or pretty much any other digital distribution site. It was like a remake that I think they kickstarted. I'm not positive it was a Kickstarter or not, but super, 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 super good. You should definitely play Shadowgate. The Deja Vu is also quite good. I think the DOS versions of these two are also available. I don't know if you can buy them specifically, or you have to own the Shadowgate remake to get them, but you should. And then finally, because I happened to see this right near the end, and the only reason I got it was because of what was included with it, but it's Ultimate Quest of the Avatar for the NES. And the reason I got it was because it actually had the giant full-color page hint book in it. Basically, the hint book in this is pretty much identical to what you would have seen in the hint, like the style and use of the hint books for Sword of Vermilion and 52. So that was super cool, and I was super glad I could get her a couple of games that she really needed on her like collection list and everything. So that was nice. So generally speaking, this has been way longer than pretty much any video I've ever done about this kind of stuff. But generally speaking, Super Bitcon hit it out of the park for me. I got a shit ton of stuff that I really needed for the collection. There's some stuff I didn't know I wanted, but I totally wanted. And, of course, a couple weird things that just happened to come across. And, yeah, I'm gonna focus up on videos, soon. And, I guess I can spoil something without spoiling too much, but, I'm working on a new hit reset for Sega Bits on top of, like, some smaller videos to try to, like, put more of, like, the good content out there. Because I know I only make, like, about one video a month. And you guys still, most of you stick around. And I really appreciate that. But I want to start putting, like, maybe one every 2 weeks out. Maybe stop trying to be so grandiose and try to focus so much. And, make some shorter, like, stuff like Sacred Line. Sacred Line was only, like, 6 minutes. Make it kind of quickly. And, like, it was still enjoyable for people. But I'm working on a new hit reset. About a Sega CD game. And it has some of the actual, like, people that worked on the game involved with the video. Yeah. It's that crazy. It's gonna be fun. I just started working on the editing. I've had it kind of in the back burner for a couple months now, but I finally got all the pieces together from the people, and, yeah. That's probably gonna be interesting, because it's actually probably... Scud and Sonic are, like, mediocre, most people kind of, consider them to not be great, but not, like, terrible. No, this one we're tackling is generally considered to be awful, so it's gonna be fun. But anyways, thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you saw some cool stuff here and enjoyed it. Hopefully this isn't super too fucking long. I'm sure it is. Hopefully it can be entertaining enough for this long, and, as always, we'll, thank you very much for sticking around. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for supporting, and, see you in the next video.